All right. Well, Jenny, why don't you get us started?
Sure. Well, thank you all for being here. I know it's a big ask to give up your evening on America's biggest holiday. So thank you for prioritizing this work and for wanting to learn more about how you can use your voice to affect some of these changes that you all have been talking about that I know you probably care about more than a lot of Arkansans. And that's the goal. The goal is to take your lived experience as educators and use it to collectively push for change and collectively push against some things that are likely to harm public education. So just full disclosure, I am not an educator. I have a little bit of experience with it when I was very young, right out of college, but have since been just working in grassroots advocacy spaces. But what we're going to jump into tonight is it's really how do you take what you all just explained to Gwen in your introductions, why are you here? We're going to take your why and help you frame it in a way that is going to, it's going to be memorable, it's going to be impactful, and hopefully when we put all of those together, it's going to make a difference and it's going to be hard to ignore. So we're here to not necessarily get super loud as individuals, but be our own selves and then come together and have that be one big loud cacophony that can't be ignored. We are also doing this ahead of probably a really important week in the state legislature. So all of you know that the LEARNS Act was announced last week in a press conference probably, but we have yet to see what that bill is going to be. We are assuming that it will be filed this week. And as a result of that, there will be ample opportunity this week and probably next for educators to make their voices heard and to come out and explain what they like about the bill, what they don't like about the bill. Just to give you a lay of the land, this is going to pass. It's a Republican-dominated legislature. Yes, somebody just pointed out Breanne Davis in the Senate is going to carry it. She sits on Senate Education. They've been holding this bill, Breanne Davis and Jane English in particular, pretty close to their chest. Jane English is the chair of Senate Education. So not many people have seen it at this point, but once we get our hands on it, we'll have a lot to go through. We expect 125 plus pages probably of all of these different policies. Some of you have probably seen the 8-page kind of like Cliff's Notes version of it. So we don't have any we don't have policy meat to get into to talk about how we can take your personal experiences and use that. But what we can do is work on those personalized stories and then give you some action steps at the end where you can practice that in the coming days. And then this week and next week, and probably for all time, as long as we're here doing this work, you will have opportunity to share that and make it part of this work. Hold on, I'm just going to let this one person pop in who's in the waiting room. Also, this is being recorded, so that's just a caveat for everybody as well. So I'm going to share, this is not a slideshow, it's a PDF deck. I have dropped it in the chat. I don't know if folks who hopped on later can you guys see my original post in the chat that has a link? Let me know if you can, and I will make sure that we send this out and put this on, put it on the Arkansas Strong and Ed page.
In the newsletter.
Yes, and she can put it in the newsletter too. So I do communications work for, again, the grassroots organizing space. And this is a messaging model developed by a group called the Demos Project. And what they have done is they have tested messaging that ultimately unites people and drives them to action. So they have done a lot of research. This is all data driven. So I just wanted to preface that this is not just kind of something that we're pulling out of nowhere and saying, hey, we want you to use this, good luck. This is, tested information, and it's gonna hopefully make an impact and help you get an idea of how to frame, the work that we're doing. So I'm not going to go through everything because this is, again, a pretty exhaustive PDF. I'm going to skip ahead to the messaging structure. So when we're talking about education and when you're talking about your personal experience as educators, the most important thing that we can do is lead with shared values. Lead with shared values. This is really critical because when we lead with the value statement, it's going to establish terms of agreement. So when we say something like, and you'll notice that the governor's office did this when they launched or when they, started proposing the LEARNS Act and like dripping that out from a messaging standpoint. No, it doesn't matter, where a zip code that a child is in, that shouldn't trap them in a failing school, right? So that statement of regardless of a child's zip code, they deserve access to X, Y, and Z. That's a value statement. And that makes it hard to kind of break down some of that messaging and go, well, that's not actually what's happening here. Well, we got to fight fire with fire, but also it's really important that we do lead with value statements because we have the same value. We have the same value alignment as that. We do believe that it doesn't matter what zip code a student lives in, they should have opportunity and access to quality education. We just have a different approach. So you want to lead with a shared value. And then that also signals to people something to buy into, something that they can, it's an opportunity to agree. It's like a welcoming. The second step of a message in this format is to use active language and name the problem. And oftentimes when we name the problem, we're also going to have to name a villain. Now, don't freak out. We're not going to call anybody like bad guys, and you don't actually have to name any names. Some of the really good models that have been tested have used the phrases like some politicians, however, or some people want to. So just be thinking about that when you're kind of structuring how you want to give your experience. You can name a problem like school choice, like vouchers. You don't actually have to name a person as a villain. You can just state the problem. So there's some wiggle room in there, but you want to specify like, this is the thing that is in the way of us achieving this value, if that makes sense. And then all you have to do right after that is you pivot with an action statement and like restating that value and how we're going to come together to make it happen. So we want to provide a specific tangible action for people. Now, this is a little bit different for me in my work where I'm trying to get action from a lot of people to do one thing. What you're going to try to do is ask an action of our policymakers, right? We're going to ask them to pass something or not pass something specifically, or we're going to ask them to invest in something, but not take away investment from this other thing. So you want to have a really clear ask, and you want to frame it around language that this is what's best for everyone. This is collectively the best thing to do for us as educators or for Arkansas kids. Does that make sense? This kind of basic framing?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just going to whiz through this. I'm going to skip these ones and we're going to go to messaging guidance. So this is just a little bit more of an explainer for each of those steps that I talked about. Using language that paints a picture of our desired outcomes. This is really important. So we're going to be tempted. And this is so human and so normal. So I'm not knocking this because I do it all the time too. I find myself going off on tangents on Twitter and fighting with people. And I'm like, why did I do that? It's a waste of my time. We're going to feel indignant, frustrated. We're going to feel outraged. We're going to feel exhaustion. And all of that is going to feed into this, like, I've got to correct the record, right? Like I've got to set it straight. Like this is not the truth. They're not telling accurate information. And we want to over-explain, and that's totally normal. The challenge for us in building a collective narrative that we can use to affect change is that we need to say what can be done better. We need to not like get into the subtext of all of the weeds about why what is being proposed is terrible. we will get chances to do that. But as a collective, we want to be painting a picture of what we desire and the outcome that that would create for students and educators in our state. So you're kind of wanting to use this language about where you have to imagine in Arkansas where we are not whatever in education. I should know that statistic and I don't. Imagine in Arkansas where we're number one in education. Imagine in Arkansas where no kid goes hungry for lunch. And those are those value statements, but we're also painting a picture of like, this is what it could be like. And that's going to really get people to think creatively, to buy into that option. They'll start dreaming it for themselves. And then they'll start going, well, like, wait, why haven't we gotten there yet? What's the disconnect? This connect to the core purpose of education, including teaching about the past and creating a better future. That's just another portion of that. So there's a lot of data that shows that when we talk about ways that we have overcome these issues in the past, that is not just inspirational to say like, this is something we could do, but also we have done it. So we know we can do it again. And there's so many things that you could point to with this, especially in the education space and in the history of education in Arkansas. Again, this is something that Sarah Sanders uses when she talks about Central High, and she talks about, you know, being there for that anniversary with her dad, the governor, and with Bill Clinton. Like, it's all of this, like, we have overcome and we can do it again. We should use similar framing when we're talking about investing, expanding opportunities for public education instead of taking away. Express the purpose of education in collective terms. Again, that we language, this like unified coming together. Now, when you're telling your personal story, absolutely use first person language. It's going to sound weird if you don't. But when you're pulling back out to talk about like, this is why we're here to do this together. That's really important, because then you're giving both pieces of that, right? Like, I am an individual with my personal lived experience and that matters. And I'm joining this collective, and together we can make this thing happen. And then express outcomes of desired policies as benefiting children, not schools. Now, this is this is just tested messaging data. So this is not to say that it's not valid to talk about how it's going to change schools. This is just a model that is saying, hey, we've tested language, and when you mention children instead of schools, it's going to perform better with persuading people. So that's kind of what this is coming from. Any questions on this kind of more broad messaging guidance structure? If I'm going too fast, just say so, and I will take a sip of water and slow down. Also, I'm sorry if you hear coughing kids in the background. Okay, let's kind of zip through this. This one's pretty huge right here. So a tactic that our opposition will do is they will, in real life, this is what they're doing. They will try to divide our coalition by separating us out in different groups and pitting us against one another. We have seen them do this with educators and with administrators, with superintendents and with teachers. This is a means to an end. It's to squash the movement that we have built around teacher pay and get us squabbling with one another so we get distracted. So we actually want to call that out. We want to call that out when we're talking about this kind of thing. We want to say, like, we see what you're doing and it's not going to work. And that does two things. One, it signals to other people that there's nefarious intentions from the other side. And it also signals strength in the work that we're doing. And so it kind of like galvanizes us and gives us that like little bit of like, yeah, they can't do that to us. We're not going to fall for it. And it also shows it shows the opposite side, like, hey, it's not going to work. So like, keep spinning your wheels if you want to. This worked really well for us in August of last year when we were pushing for teacher pay during the special legislative call. And they were going into, their peer review legislative committees and saying like, well, it's the superintendents and the school district's fault for not paying their teachers more. And we said like, hey, that's not going to work. You can't distract us. You can't divide us. Try again. And it was really bothersome to them. And they kind of broke down and panicked and, it worked. So for all intents and purposes, like we want to use this similar language where, again, when we're calling out the problem and the villain and all of that, you can use this type of language to say like, hey, they're going to try to pit us against one another. They're going to try to pit urban versus rural. They're going to try to, think of all of the ways that you have heard from these people making these proposals that have tried to split. And then you want to say like, this
Versus
is what they're
teachers,
doing.
big one.
Which one?
Parents versus teachers.
Parents versus teachers. Yes. Huge. Empowering parents, disempowering. And that's a great one. That's a great one to use this week. Like parents are not misaligned from teachers. Parents are with teachers. I'm a parent. I'm not a teacher. I'm with teachers. So that's exactly right, Gwen. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So this is more broad language with a call to action. It's asking people, show up, become civically engaged. And again, that is one of the purposes of the work that we're doing is we want people to be engaged with this. I don't remember who it was at the beginning. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but somebody was talking about like just being so frustrated, like so you feel like you're screaming into the wind. That's why we want to, when we're giving our personal stories, we want to have this framework because we want people to know that there's actually something that they can do. And that's why a lot of you are here. So specifically this week, we will have asks of you and we'll talk about that at the end. Okay, so we're going to skip through this curriculum portion because it's not really applicable. I'm going to just wrap up with this section. And then we'll talk about what this week looks like. This is a nice little say this, not this. And again, this is data tested. You can go to this website. It's called We Are the Future, I think is what the website is called. But it's called Demos Project. And they're a messaging resource for people in this advocacy space. So this just tells you, instead of talking about equity and equitable schools, we want to say children of every race, background, and zip code, every child. So again, centering children, you're like putting a face on it, and we're kind of moving away from more of these academic terms and speaking more of like, okay, when you say equitable school, like that's not really a heart connection. But when you say kids, no matter what they look like that's going to get me to be like, yeah, that matters. So you're creating some space to welcome in people and to feel something about this, even if a little bit.
Yeah, I think that zip code one is a really good one. I've been kind of thinking on that one a lot lately because that's one of the things she says over and over. No child should be trapped in a failing school because of their zip code. And the more I think about that, the more upset it makes me, because we have to fix the zip code. Like you're not trapped in a zip code. I mean, you're not trapped in a school because of your zip code. Like that's where the school is. And in most of our places, there's not another school in the zip code. Like you're going to be there. And so we don't believe anyone should be trapped in a failing school because of their zip code. And that's why they need a good school there. That's why the school better have plenty of investment in it. That's why it needs to have good teachers. That's why, and I just like, there's something in me that just wants to harp on that right now. Like, I do not want her to get away with saying that, or them, like this talking point, And I think for Wednesday, that's one of the things that I'm going to like drive home to every legislator I talk to. They represent these zip codes, and the zip code has to have a school, a good public school for all the kids. Or what you're saying is we're just going to get like a couple out and then the rest of the kids in the zip code.
So the solution is different. Right. And that's what we have to say. We have to say, we agree every Arkansas kid, no matter their zip code, deserves an opportunity for quality education.
And you don't fix that by taking them out of the zip code.
That's right. That's right. We fix it by what?
You can't do that without
investing in our kids, which means investing in our public schools.
Yeah.
That's true empowerment, right?
And I think in our communities, and like,
Mhm.
I've just been thinking that about one of the teachers here sent me a email. She had emailed our rep here, said, hey, I need you to please look out for public ed, and look out for our teachers in this, our rural district. You represent a lot of rural districts. And he literally emailed her back, I am not here for a teacher. And I just thought about what that means. Like, we cannot allow them to say these things to us on Wednesday. We cannot allow this BS just to, like, I want us to counter that stuff. Yes, you are there for teachers, because teachers are in the school that is the hub of the community that you represent. All these rural communities, they have to have their schools or the community's gone. And that is who you represent.
Mhm.
So the idea that it's, I'm here for everyone, not just the teachers, is ridiculous. Like, the teachers are there for everyone. Anyway, I think specifically on Wednesday, some of these things, it's their exact talking points just flipped on their heads.
That's right. And so I'm going to stop share right now, and then we can talk, a bit about how to personalize this and add in your story, to it. I just wanted you to have kind of a framework to know how to build something. If and when you decide you would like to participate in the committee process, to testify for or against particular legislation, the more hot a button issue is for legislation, the more likely they are going to try to silence, unfortunately, the voices of the public and any type of momentum that the opposition has, and that includes teachers. And so there is a likelihood that in the next 2 weeks, testimony in particular committees can be limited to a time. So any person is allowed at any time to testify on any piece of legislation. That's the way our system works. What's tricky, they pull some fast moves on us though, and oftentimes they won't tell us when something's going to run. It's all about what the chair of that committee decides. It's their prerogative. Now I will say that I feel like Jane English and Representative Evans are not like schemy people. I feel like they try to be honest people. So that's a positive. Now that doesn't mean that they're going to, not put a time restriction on letting teachers speak. So that's why something like this is important. You want to build this and practice this before you go. Now, if you're doing something on social media and you're talking on TikTok or you're talking to a colleague, yeah, you definitely want to like have something ready, but you can be a little bit more fluid. But like if you're speaking to legislators, it needs to be tight, needs to be concise. You need to get to your thesis and you need to make them feel something. And I know that's a lot of pressure, but that's kind of why we're here, is we want to like pull on those heartstrings and have people not be able to ignore what you're saying. And maybe that's a good segue. And Ezra, you can kind of take it from here and talk about what people can expect when they testify.
Yeah, so the last training we did, we talked about different ways in which you can engage, right? And so many ways to engage. I want to hover in basically for the last, few minutes of this training and talk about testifying before a legislative committee. So there is a House and Senate Education Committee, as you guys are likely aware of. Just like Jenny said, the bills will be heard through education. It may be that we don't know when a bill will be up. Bills can be pulled, they can be brought back up, testimony can be limited. But what we're going to do, right, is we're going to work with our partners in the General Assembly, our supporters of public education, and get basically the lowdown, right? We're going to try to the best of our ability, to know what's going on, when certain important bills will be before the House or the Senate Education Committees. And we're going to try to turn out people either to support or to testify against the passage of certain bills. So sorry, just me being the lawyer, I have to say, Arkansas Strong doesn't like lobby. That's not our point here. What we do is civic engagement. And so we work with groups, you know, like Arkansas teachers to help them engage in navigating the process. But when you are up there testifying, right, like your power as a person comes from you being a citizen of Arkansas, a member of your community, an educator, a former educator, a supporter of public education. You know, we're not trying to have a big showy thing to make this about us. Oh, we're Arkansas Strong. That's something that needs to be, you know, important in and of itself. We want to help educators and support the fight for public schools. But when you're up there, right, like you're going up there as a citizen to speak about your community. And so that's how we want you to present yourself. Committee testimony is very easy. I have sort of a laundry list of things I want to go through, and then we can do questions. The first is you'll have to sign up. They only hear certain people, and we'll let you know. We'll have folks who are there usually every time that there's testimony. I will direct you, but you've got to get there early. You've got to get a seat in the room or close, and you've got to get on the list to sign up, and we'll help you. But you don't just get to like pop your hand up and say, okay, it's my turn to testify. Second part, you're on camera. You're also testifying in a public body, right? So we need you to, you know, you don't have to dress overly formal, right? You don't have to wear a pantsuit. It doesn't have to be something, you know, extreme, right? But you should dress semi-formally. You should certainly not, you know, we have a rule for attorneys who are in court. We try not to wear anything flashy. We try not to wear anything that's distracting. I think all of those rules here apply, right? Because you want to be able to sit in the chair and be heard and not have your testimony, you know, reduced for any other reason. That said, you know, flashy things that are distracting, you know, none of that belongs in this space. We're trying to get up there and to take our time. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a cat. And to take our time and to be heard, right? So the third thing I'll say is we'll help supply you with the details, right? We'll help supply you with short little talking points and snippets, but you've got to be ready, right? Like think about this before you get in the room, and it doesn't have to be, you know, like the Gettysburg Address, right? But you should at the least sketch some stuff out, right? Work on your story. Use this as an opportunity to build out your elevator pitch of who you are and why you're here. Because when you get up there, you're going to get this, you know, pressure basically to, you know, start talking immediately, right? And if you don't have your lead in, it's kind of easy to get a little shy, and then you feel like you're, you know, you're panicking a little bit. So definitely come in prepared. On the note about speaking, right? Speak slowly. I know so many of you are educators and you are already commanding classrooms, but this is a little bit different than that setting, right? And so we care also about the video and the stuff that we can cut out of it. So if you have a great line or a great answer to a question, we want to be able to capture it, but we also want people to be able to hear it. So think about the fact that we're probably going to try to use your time if it goes well, and cut that piece of it out and blast it, right? We want people to see you testifying. And so that, you know, when we get up there, we get nervous and we start speaking, you know, so quickly. And so just take that breath, slow down, you know, look around the room. You're going to have tons of friends and supporters with you. Sort of corollary to that, you want to maintain a conversational tone. You know, the point of this testimony is not to like come up and just like start reading from this, right? Like not helpful, not persuasive. You want to get up there and just talk to them. I've testified before committees tons. It's not very difficult. It's more of a conversation than anything. You'll have a chance to give some remarks. And then the committee members will ask questions of you if they want to engage with you. They may not, and then it's just sit back down. But if you get the chance to talk to them, right, just keep it conversational. The back and forth just can be simply, you know, ask and answer. It doesn't have to be combative. We certainly, you know, will be disagreeing, right? We may come in there and say, you know, we love the teacher pay raise, right? Here are the things we don't like. But the thing that we want to do here, right, is not hit a sort of super adversarial tone. You know what I mean? We lose our effectiveness if this becomes sort of like a shouting match or sort of a heated debate. One, it's just there'll be a few people on the committee who they want to play into that, right? They're going to use that for political reasons to try to break up our movement, to try to divide teachers, try to make this seem political. And so we want to avoid all of those things, right? We just want to have a conversation. And we're not talking like you're not going to get a half hour, right? You're going to get a few minutes here, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if the committee's really interested in what you've got to say. That said, right, like be prepared for an exchange. Like I said, if you come in there and you say, I'm a former principal, I am a principal, I'm on the school board, I've had this many decades of education experience. It could very well be that the committee wants to talk to you. So be ready to answer some questions, provide reasons why, what's brought you to testify that day. But most importantly, right, like just don't be intimidated by this. We're going to help get you all the details, right? You'll know where to park, where to go, right? We'll help greet you, or our other supporters will be there. If you don't have talking points or you're nervous, we can help supply you. We're going to be sending out general things anyway. But the most important message I can say is show up to this. And if you can help us turn out people, then that's what we need you to do. Because, Jenny's right. The political environment basically means that Governor Sanders can have pretty much whatever she wants, right? And I think we get that. But politics never ends, right? The fight for public education in Arkansas is never going to be won or lost. So what we do here, has got to be towards a movement, right? We're trying to engage public school teachers, and that means we got to get way more people on the call, right? We got to get way more people showing up and testifying before committee and just being heard, because it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. I mean, we've seen already in many states that are as conservative as Arkansas, major reforms like this go down in flames because public educators stood up, right? And they brought their community with them.
Well, I think the $50,000 is also an example of that. I mean, we push that hard. We've been pushing teacher pay, and Jenny can probably speak to the specifics of this more than I can, but we through our efforts and the rally, and then all the grassroots stuff that we did through Jenny Petty's graphics and op-eds. I mean, we drove the conversation about raises. And now I personally feel like the way they've done raises with this is punitive. It's like, okay, all right, we're going to give you your $50,000. And then it's like cutting us off at the knees with it, as far as like the devil in the details with all that. But I do feel like one thing that our people, you guys and all the people who've worked on that need to recognize is that we did drive that conversation. And so even though it seems like we're David up against Goliath here, like we don't have to lay down and take that. We can say, yeah, we wanted that 50,000. But here's how we want it. We want it this way. It's not meaningful if you do it the way you're doing it. And, but I think, I do think it is true that Sarah Sanders is going to get what she wants. I do also think we have got to still have some faith in the people in our communities and in teachers, and in the volume of calls and that we can generate that will affect those legislators, because it affected them this summer, and it affected them enough to put this $50,000 in there. I mean, it is like one of the only good things in there, but I can promise you it wouldn't have been in there if we didn't push that, and so while we are looking at this huge tidal wave, I think we have got to try to influence this policy as much as we can before it gets made into law. Even though, Sarah's going to get what she wants, not without a fight, she's not. And just maybe, I mean, you just never know. what will be the thing that will get enough of these legislators to get together and say, we cannot do this. This will be a deal breaker. And that's what we're going for here. Yeah, we are building a movement, that's going to go on past this. Probably going to have to pick up all the pieces after it, just bomb, it crashes and burns. After some of this stuff does pass and disaster happens, teachers will still be there to fix it. But I do think, at least I'm going there Wednesday and beyond until this gets passed with the mindset we're going to change it and shape it as much as we possibly can.
So Gwen,
Yeah.
can you, this is Georgianne.
Yes.
So a couple of months ago, when all this started coming out, I did ask for an appointment with my legislator in the Senate from Russellville, and she did not give me an appointment. And so
Is that Senator Davis?
Yes.
I'm talking about her. And then I started having other friends and other teachers sending letters to her, and her response to me when I asked for an appointment for a group of us to meet together to just tell our stories was, don't you think that all kids should have the opportunity to have a great education, even if they come from a poverty school? And my letter that I sent said that I was concerned about that, but she didn't even address my concern. She immediately went to a talking point that now I'm hearing Sarah Huckabee Sanders
Oh, yeah.
using. And then I wanted to tell you this. At the very last, she said, I'm curious about the we that you used in your letter. Are you representing the Russellville School Board? Are you a voice for the Russellville School Board? And in my response, I said, one voice cannot speak for seven. I am speaking for all educators in the state of Arkansas, not the school board that I'm on. But that was a bullying technique.
Oh gosh, yes.
That I wasn't quite sure what to do with, because I hadn't told my superintendent that I was in advocacy. So now she knows, and I'm out of the closet. But I'm just saying, these are some things that I really appreciate about this call, because I was silenced.
Good. Not good that you were silenced. Good that you didn't. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so that is one thing that, so Ezra said that, like, when we go there and we show up and we make our voices heard. So when you're contacting your legislators, or you're writing the emails, or you're calling them and leaving voicemails, or you're asking for appointments, or you're showing up at their office, or you're going to committee, you're there representing yourself. You did right by that. Like, that's what you should do. When we talk about not being intimidated, that is something that the infrastructure of this group can absorb for you. Like, we do not stand for that. One of the things that my organization does is we are vehemently committed to transparency and accountability from our state leaders. And we will tell the public when they bully their constituents. That is absolutely abhorrent. And I'm very sorry that that happened to you. I know that has happened to Gwen before. It has happened to a lot of us before. And that's the kind of thing that when that happens, when we ask for you all to contact your legislators, we ask you to save those receipts. Anything that, you feel like is a inappropriate response from a lawmaker, or something that is like, I'm going to get you, I'm going to twist your words around, and you're just coming as a concerned constituent, sharing your perspective with your elected leader who works for you. And they give you a nasty response, or they brush you off, or they ignore you. That is information that we can use to then add more fuel to this, to bring people on and to say, this is even more urgent because these people are not willing to listen to us. Like, they can't even just have a regular conversation with a concerned educator. So all that to say, one, I am incredibly sorry that that happened to you. Two, I am not at all surprised. Three, if you're willing to share that And, you know, this is something that our organization does. We report on this type of thing. If that's something that you're willing to share, it can be anonymous, whatever it is, we can put this together and kind of say like, hey, this is an issue. And also this person is running the education bill for the, you know, administration. And so how can the person sponsoring this bill not be willing to hear from educators? That's a terrible look.
Thank
So
you.
we
I'm
can
gonna
use that.
bring it to you on Wednesday.
Excellent.
Georgianne, I just wanted to all that Jenny said, it makes me so mad. It makes me so sick. And I want to tell you, actually, that is one of the reasons why that happened to me, is one of the reasons I am here. The first time I ever went to the Capitol to try to testify, and it was about vouchers. Wasn't anything in this scope. It was just expanding vouchers. And I guess it was in 2021. And I took a personal day. I did what I'm asking people to do on Wednesday. I was completely prepared. Actually, I went in thinking that they were going to be friendly, kind of like, I was going to piggyback on some of the stuff Ezra was saying. I hope it'll be like that, and maybe it will be. They were horrible to me. It was the House Education Committee meeting. I went in there. I was nice. I was dressed up really nice. I had all my ducks in a row, and I started by saying, you know, I'm a teacher and I'm concerned about this, you know, and the minute I said that, there were specific ones that literally turned in their chairs and turned their face away from me. One of them held up her phone like this. Like I felt like I was on a Saturday Night Live skit or something. And that was when I had this moment that it sounds like you had with Breanne Davis the other day, when I was just like, heck no, this is not okay. Like, this is not okay. This is not how our government is supposed to function. This is not right. Like, and I was just so upset, not only for myself, but just for the whole system and all the constituents, because I'm a pretty like confident person, you know, like you've been is a principal. I'm used to talking to people. I'm not scared or like easily intimidated. And I go in there and they treated me like that. Like I was just a piece of trash. And I just thought about all the people who would be like scared and intimidated by that, or who wouldn't even come there, you know, or who would just, and I haven't gotten over it. I will never get over it. And that's why, you know, we've got to do this. We've got to show that you cannot do this to me. You will not do this to me, you know, and you will not do this to us as teachers. And that's how I feel about this whole bill thing. If they are going to just do it regardless, they're going to do it with us watching and with us pointing out the truth. And they're going to do it just, you know, they are going to have to face us and face the truth, and those stupid talking points and that disrespectful bullying and mess. We're not like they're not going to, it's not going to be easy for them. I guess that's all I can say. Jenny Petty knows I emailed every single one of our reps and senators last week or the week before about this $50,000 thing. And I got back so many crummy responses like that, like she gave you, just like they thought I was an idiot or something, that they could just spout out this, you know, dumb talking point. And I would just be like, oh, okay, well, okay. And instead I just went, you know, kind of dug in just to the truth, just respectfully. And I just think that is what we have to do. I think that is what where our, you know, power comes from, is just the truth over and over and over, and just going back and showing up. And no, Breanne Davis, you know, you talk to me like that, and here I am. I'm at the Senate committee meeting to speak now on Wednesday. Hi, hello again. I'm here, you know.
Right.
Oh man, now that I know this story, I cannot wait to be there on Wednesday.
Let me kind of go on a little bit of a tangent. I'm trying to figure out what can I do and where do we start. And I watched Arkansas Week Friday night. Did anybody else? And
I did.
Steve Barnes interviewed Denise Garner. She's definitely for the teachers, and she is very passionate about this bill and the fact that there's good things in it and bad things in it. And the English woman said her big thing is, well, it's really good for education. And instead of taking all this time to break it up, let's do it all in one sweep. Well, that's what Huckabee Sanders wants, is to get it all in. Oh, look, teachers, you're getting $50,000. You don't mind all this other stuff too, because it's all good. And we're supposed to blindly say, oh, yes, thank you so much for giving us a raise.
Yes,
And-
may I have another.
Yeah, exactly. Denise Gardner pointed out that if we can go work to, and I know as a legislator, she's going to try to reach out and say, oh, I'm really excited about this part of it. Let's work together to at least get this part on which we all agree. And then we'll discuss these other parts later. So it may be one of our tangents may be to try to make sure that it doesn't all get passed at once and start breaking little pieces off on which we can agree. And if we can
That's
find some
smart.
legislators that would say, okay, we'll at least go for this, and then we'll negotiate some of these other things. If we can just not get it all passed at once, because once it's all passed at once, there isn't anything we can do but whine about it. you
Well,
know?
we can do a ballot
Do
referendum.
a ballot initiative.
Yes,
We can still do a constitutional amendment.
I was
even-
just reading
But you
today
got the numbers for that, and most
in
of us don't have the
Oklahoma, they just did a poll and it was crazy. It was this like 67% of the population that was against vouchers. And I know it would be that way in Arkansas if it was like broken up like that. So
Yeah.
that'd
I
be,
think that
the next thing. Go ahead.
to me, there's this disconnect between the political narrative that is just toxic, and then the boots on the ground, like parents, teachers, and students. I think somehow we have to harness parents' voice.
exactly.
I don't think that they represent this political narrative that is being played out in our state and nationwide. I really don't have that. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't have a couple parents who might disagree, but most of parents support what's happening in schools because they want their kid to succeed. And
Yes.
so they're for us. And I feel like somehow that disconnect needs to be traversed.
How do we do that? That is something I have been longing to do on Arkansas Strong. I've been so just disgusted by them co-opting this narrative like they're the voice of parents. They're the voice of a few weird fringe parents, but they're not the voice of our parents, of public
Right.
school kids, by and large. I know. I know, Jenny. I hear that. Good Lord, my husband was a football coach. Our town is like that. That is where everyone is on Friday night. And
Yeah.
and they care, that happens. And then so I would love for us to have that too, like you're saying, like we have the voice of the parents, but how do we do it?
Well, for one thing, we need some facts and statistics about vouchers. Anybody who's talked to anyone who goes to a private school or one of the special schools, whatever they're offering in the way of voucher is not going to come close to what it costs.
No.
28 years ago, when my son hit the junior year in honors chemistry, I had to go to Walmart and buy a graphing calculator, and it was $80. That was when I was free public education.
Right.
Even public education isn't free if you want the best for your children. But I wasn't going to have him at a disadvantage in honors chemistry.
Mhm.
And so a voucher, a $500 voucher does not even come close to anything, not the uniforms, not the tuition, not the travel to get to that place. We have public schools. I went to a town where I grew up until I was 13. It's been merged. It was Elaine down in Southeast Arkansas. It's been merged with Marble, which is 25 miles away.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't even have an elementary. These kids have to get 25 miles on a 2-lane highway, 2 directions to go to school. they've done away with the Elaine school. It was so bad. And many people around there, if they can scrape their money together, they go to a private school. And so
Well, we look
it's
at the
hard
other
enough.
that have already implemented vouchers. I mean, like this was in my letter to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I think that it was over half or 70 or 80,000 people kids had gone to these private schools, and they were actually, those parents were the ones that were actually asking for the vouchers.
Right.
There was 3.5% of the marginalized students and their families who even left a failing school. 3.5%.
Right.
That's crazy.
The vouchers
So-
don't even come close to covering it. There's no way.
Right. And so in her little detailed graphic, it said that we're going to start first with at-risk failing schools. So I know 3 right here in my district. If I went there and I gave the voucher to a parent, sometimes they can't even afford to drive their kids to school because they don't have a car.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no way. Yeah.
yeah. But where do we get these parents to go with us to the legislature? Where do we get them? Do we just go to a school and invite them to come, or how? I don't know.
Jenny Petty, you had your real hand up.
I was just saying, and I mean, Gwen knows this. Like I taught for 8 years at a private school before I started. This is only my 4th year in an Arkansas public school, and so like I've lived that life, that world. You know, I'm a Harding University grad, all that. And so, like, you know, I like Linda, what you brought up. I think we're probably thinking of the same article, the same graphic. I think that had New Hampshire, Wisconsin, and I don't know what other state. Indiana. Okay. So it was the families using the vouchers. It was between like 90 and 75% or something. Like those kids had never ever been enrolled in a public school, and like you said, that 3% percentage, or that 3% number of kids were coming. So I mean, I'm thinking, and again, I don't think Gwen knows this, like as I'll send her stuff all the time, my brain just gets going about, just love the graphs, love the stats so people can see it. And so one district, and again, like I'm not going to sit there and think about every county, every public school, how this could potentially affect, but one that I think of is Searcy, because I went to Harding University. I graduated from Camden Fairview down in South Arkansas, and got my bachelor's at Harding. So Searcy, and it's because of the university there, they have one one of the larger private schools in the state, Harding Academy. And I don't remember the name of the other 2, but all this data was on ADE. I have the screenshots of it. There are 2 other private schools there. So when you tally up at least the current number of students that are enrolled in a private school that live within Searcy Public Schools district, that's 700 students. I have no idea what they're saying they want to make these vouchers be. If we said that they were $6,000 or $7,000, that's over, and I'd have to count. That's between $3 and $4 million. Where those students, where's that money coming from?
Can I say they Jacob Oliva said that they haven't ironed that out, but it's going to be approximately 90% of what a student funding is. So it's $7,500, and so 90% of $7,500 is the money that would follow the student to wherever they are. Homeschool.
What kind of family is paying that much in taxes anyway? So it's insane. I mean, it's not their money. They don't, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, exactly my income, and then the percentage of my income that goes to education, it's not that much money. Is it? It's not even that much.
These are great questions. And I think for all of us, probably it's like informative and therapeutic just to talk through some of it and to have each other to talk to. I want to honor our time. It's 8:14. We've been doing this an hour and 15 minutes now, and like my kids are here from college, so I want to visit them a few minutes before with the Super Bowl and then leaving tomorrow morning. But I want to say to all of you, I can't tell you even how much I appreciate your being here, and your, teachers are just so great to work with because you're so smart and you're so loving and motivated. And like this training, Jenny, you did a great job going through that with us and giving us that resource, and the things that Ezra said were great. I think that, a lot of what we need to do right now is what we've been doing for years in our classrooms, is just translating some of this information into stories that people can grab a hold of and learn and understand. And so for those of you who are going to join us Wednesday, I would encourage you, and I'll be doing this myself in the next couple days, to get some of that on paper, to kind of practice it, to be ready to share with legislators one-on-one. And then if you're one of those people who wants to speak at the Senate Ed Committee, we will be there. We're meeting at 8:30 right inside the doors after you come in through security. We're meeting with Senator Jane English before the committee meeting, and the Senate Ed chair, and then we're going to go to that meeting together. We can help you sign up. We'll all be there supporting you. I think it's a great opportunity to get people's feet wet, and I think it's very, very timely. I don't know if that bill's going to drop before then, but it's probably, it can drop any minute, and they're ready to ram it through. And so I think this is a timely moment for us to be there and be engaged. We've got a list of legislators who are willing to meet with us, and I'm excited about meeting with them. And some of them, like Bruce Cozart, he is, the House Ed Committee chair, and Jane English too. And I mean, some of these people are not real known for being real interested and open and great to teachers. And so I think we have a great opportunity to be in front of them. I think they did not see a way around not speaking to us, and I think that's also good. And then we're going to meet Denise Garner and Clark Tucker and some of the others who have really just been champions for us. So this is a great opportunity for everybody to kind of get your feet wet meeting those people. So if you can come, please do, and please bring an army with you. And then maybe after we're done with all that hard work, we can go sit somewhere and visit. And also, probably you guys all on this call are part of Arkansas Strong in Education. If you have not signed up to receive our newsletters, please do that. You just go to arkansasstrong.org here. Yeah, Jenny's dropping the link in there. There's just lots of information. There are these trainings for you. There's a podcast I did a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Glenn Fenner, a superintendent at Marion. There will be more of that kind of stuff. And we're kind of building a community there. Of course, it's all free. So I'm going to jump off here. But I love you guys and appreciate you for being here and for all you've done for kids all these years. And I'm excited to see you on Wednesday. Jenny, did you have anything else?
No, I just echo Gwen's sentiment. Thank you for making the time. And if anyone has anything that they need to send to me, you can always go to the Facebook event page and drop it there. You can message us on 4AR People or Arkansas Strong, or reach out to Gwen if you want to pass along something a legislator has said, or have that going forward. Just let me know, and we'll figure out how we can work it in with our stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank